Hey, pro organizers, it's Melissa. Did you think I was never going to record a podcast again? I know, it's been a hot minute, but here I am. I am back. Never fear, I'm never gone long. I actually had someone that I did a Zoom with, someone who was interested in talking about some of our coaching services. And she's like, "Do you have like a regular schedule for the podcast?" And I'm like, "No." And I've said this before, but if there is a week that there is not a podcast up, I just want you to know that it's not because I'm sitting on the couch not doing anything. That means that I have some sort of complete insanity going on and I just am not able to get an episode that I love out. And I want to make sure that the episodes are really good and that they really hit you. So thank you for your patience. And one of the things that I recommend too is going back if you are missing me, which that's so sweet. If you do miss me, I really appreciate it. And definitely let my family know that you actually miss talking to me and hearing from me, because I think they would like to hear from me less. But anyway, if you want to go back into our catalog, we have 200, what are we on? 211 podcasts? I don't even know. There is tons of stuff in the back catalog that is, dare I say, really helpful. And it might be that a re-listen kind of helps jog your memory. I do that for some of the business podcasts that I listen to. So highly recommend it. If you're ever like, hey, where's Melissa? What is she doing this week? Why isn't she podcasting? Lots of back episodes that you can go to. So this week, I am bringing you an episode that is about something that you might not have thought of as being helpful in your organizing business for marketing yourself and for getting even those local in-home organizing clients, and that is Pinterest. I personally love Pinterest for home improvement projects and recipes, even though I don't like to cook. It's one of the mysteries about me. I do like looking up recipes, but I don't like actually making them. Someday I will become the domestic goddess that I know I'm ready to be. Anyway, I love using Pinterest, but Julia is going to talk to us about how to use Pinterest for your business, and we are going to make it really easy for you. I am also going to give you a little bonus, which is that if you email me hello@proorganizerstudio.com and say, give me my stuff, I will send you a couple things that I have created after talking to Julia that will help you get started on Pinterest. So hit me up with that. And without further ado, here is Julia of Julia Renee Consulting talking to us about Pinterest. Have a great day, organizers. We are back with a frequent guest. Is this like your third? I think it's like your third time on the podcast. I don't know. You've been on several
It
times.
might be, yeah.
Yes. So, Julia, so happy to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yeah. So, you are an expert in one of my favorite things, which is SEO. I talk about it all the time. It's really important. And I want people to be paying attention to it. But today we're talking about kind of SEO for something really specific. So, do you want to tell us about one of your other passions besides SEO?
Yeah, so the other one is Pinterest, and Pinterest is actually a search engine. It's a visual search engine. So that's why I focused on SEO and Pinterest specifically.
Yeah. Can you tell us what a visual search engine is? I don't think
Mhm.
I've ever heard that described before.
Yeah, so and just like a search engine, you go to Google, you type in a question or you're looking for inspiration, something, and then Google will show you some results with different websites. Pinterest is the very similar concept where you go type something into Pinterest, and then instead of just like links or locations on a map or something like that, Pinterest is going to show you images and videos. So if you ever go to Pinterest, all you are going to see are images and videos. You're not just going to see like links to websites with the titles or something like that.
Right. So Pinterest has been around. I was like one of the early adopters to Pinterest,
Mm,
like
mhm,
way, way, way back in the day. You had to like know someone who had a link,
mhm,
let you in, the whole thing. And I remember at the time, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. It was like there
mhm.
was so much cool stuff on it. And now it's totally exploded.
Yeah, mhm,
Last few years especially, like, so many people are using it, and
mhm,
I know I tend to go to it personally. I don't know if this is maybe, like, demographically, like, my age range. I go to Pinterest way before I would consider going to YouTube,
mhm.
personally.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Mhm,
Like, my teenagers will go to YouTube instantly, like, for
mm,
everything.
mhm,
So talk to me a little bit about I think Pinterest feels a little bit more like, oh, either it's for big creators or it's for people that are doing recipes or
mhm,
clips or whatever. So can you talk a little bit about Pinterest and how organizers are using it, can use it, how
mhm.
we should be using it a little bit more effectively?
Yeah, so Pinterest, like you said, has really kind of taken off in the last couple of years. I think it's definitely a combination of things. They added videos, or at least started focusing more on videos in the last couple of years. So people have jumped on that wagon. They kind of adapted Instagram Reels into what they called idea pins, and then that has been through a lot of different iterations. So now it's just kind of video pins. And then they've also started focusing more on e-commerce and product sellers on Pinterest. So if you do sell products, you can become a verified merchant. Super easy if you're like using Shopify. But even if you're just creating blog posts or also videos, Pinterest is still a really great platform for that. I'll say most of the time it's those standard photo pins that are still driving the bulk of traffic for a lot of businesses. So for organizers specifically, definitely as an SEO person, I'm always recommending writing blog posts anyway, but using those blog posts on Pinterest, even if I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, I don't have, like, beautiful photos or anything like that." People seem to, like, care less about having, like, very curated photos. It's just kinda like Instagram where, like, back in the day, you had these very professional photos, and now people are just posting cell phone selfies. But even if, I don't know, that isn't a concern of yours, you can definitely just use, like, pin graphics and do, like, text overlay on top of images, or even just get kinda like standard, what do they call it, stock images, and do
Yeah.
a text overlay on that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your image on the idea pin, and then within your blog post, you can show off the work that you're doing, even if it's not your perfect curated photos. And yeah, just lead people back to your blog post, and then from there, once they're on your blog post, lead them to signing for email list or checking out products if that's something that you have, or your services, or kind of using your blog post to lead them where you want them to go once they get to your site.
Yeah. So you said something about, so I think we all know, all of us know how to post on Instagram. All of us know how to post on
Mhm.
Facebook. Also, let's just go back just really quickly. Julia and I would both like you to write blog posts.
Yes.
Please write some blog posts. Please see our
Mhm.
prior podcasts. And if you are in Inspired Organizer, I have extra stuff
Mhm.
from Julia in the course. So if you're an Inspired Organizer listener, please go into the course. You have lots of SEO tips from, yeah, write those blog posts. But I
Mhm.
think that we know how to put those things on Instagram and Facebook. Pinterest, I will say to me, feels like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to post on Pinterest.
Mhm.
So is it hard? Is it easy? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's not hard. It can be a little different than other platforms. You do need to have an image. So it's not like Facebook where you can just write an update about your life and then post it without any photos or videos or something. You do need to have a photo or a video to add to Pinterest. And then when you go to upload, so you'll just go to Pinterest, click on, they have like a little plus sign to add your pin. You'll upload your photo, your video, and then it has a title box and then a description box. So this is where it's like very similar to Google and SEO and a little different from like Instagram. The title is very similar to like the title tag, so kind of like the title of the blog post or a variation of the title of the blog post. And then the description is kind of like a summary of what people will find when they click on the photo or video to go to the blog post. So you're not just like kind of writing a little update about your life or something like that. You are writing about your blog post or your whatever content that you have, and incorporating keywords within the title and in the description, to help it that pin rank on Pinterest and help Pinterest understand what that pin is about.
Right. So Pinterest and YouTube maybe are a little bit more
Mhm,
linked. Like if people are doing YouTube content, like that's the same thing, the title and the
mhm.
description.
Yeah.
There's a
Mhm,
lot of rich content you can put in there of SEO, professional
mhm,
organizer, decluttering, organizing your location, your geographic location,
mhm.
all those things. Those are great things. Does Pinterest have a limit on the number of characters?
It does. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I honestly don't know I've ever reached the limit.
Okay, it's revised.
It's pretty long. It's not like a meta description that's only 160 characters. Like it's a couple hundred characters. And you don't need to like go crazy and fill out every single one. Just writing like a couple sentences about whatever is in the blog post or whatever is in the video. Another thing is you don't have to use hashtags. Hashtags is something Pinterest tried out like, I don't know, 3 years ago or something. Didn't really work. People didn't really know how to use them, and then Pinterest is like, "Yeah, we don't worry about this
I don't
anymore."
care.
Yeah, so just don't use hashtags. They don't matter. They don't hurt you if you do have an old pin that has hashtags. You don't have to go through and delete them, but, like, it doesn't help, so just don't do them. I have seen a lot of people using ChatGPT to write their pin titles and descriptions, and since ChatGPT is using information from like I think 2021 is or
22 or something.
2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is actually using hashtags in a lot of pin descriptions that I've seen. So if you do want to use like Chat GPT to at least get you started on writing pin titles and descriptions, just tell them not to use emojis or hashtags because you don't need those.
Okay, that's good to know. I know that we're going to take like a quick detour, but FYI, if you are using ChatGPT, which by the way, you should because it
Mhm.
offers a lot of great help, but it is a start, not a complete solution.
Mhm.
And you've just said something really important. So ChatGPT, the most recent information it has in its learning is the last time I checked, 2022.
Mhm.
So it has basically 2 years of information that has not been fully, like, whatever they do with it, sucked into their great big AI machine.
Mhm.
So, just know I mean, that's a really great point, and I had never really thought about that. It's going to give you something that might have worked 2 years ago and isn't going to work now.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mhm. And I mean, even though it's pulling information up until 2022, it's still reading blog posts that were published in like 2019 that may have been like recommending hashtags or something. So yeah, you can't entirely trust ChatGPT yet.
It's a start, it's not the
Hmm.
whole solution. So, what do you recommend for people? So, like, for a professional organizer, let's say you've never been on Pinterest before, like, you really don't know anything about
Hmm.
Pinterest. Do you suggest, like, getting in there and just kinda looking around, seeing what kinds of things that you react to? Like, I know I will react to a pin that visually had something, like, a little bit more interesting or description-wise or whatever, like, do you
Hmm.
recommend kinda getting a lay of the land and looking around a little bit or just diving right in?
I think it depends on how comfortable you are with your brand and creating pins and things like that. If you have absolutely no idea where to get started, it is probably helpful to kind of search around on Pinterest. I would actually search maybe some similar blog post topics that you have or just general organizing topics, kind of see what people are doing, but then you don't want to copy them because you want to make sure that your content is standing out. So get an idea of what people are doing, but don't copy. Make sure everything that you're using on your pin designs is in line with your brand. So if you have like more cooler tones because you want people to feel like relaxed when they come to your website because they're already stressed about all the clutter that they have in their house, don't use like bright red on your pin designs because that's not going to match what people are going to see when they go to your website. So making sure that you are using your branding, your brand colors, fonts, all of that, or at least something very similar. Because if you have maybe a lot of like script fonts with your website, which I don't recommend having a lot of,
Great.
because that can be harder to read, but that really is harder to read on pins, especially when you want to have something that stands out. So at least make sure you're using fonts that kind of align with your brand if you're not using your exact brand fonts.
Yeah. That's just a great suggestion in general, and I feel like the last time we talked a little bit about script fonts, maybe I'm just
Mhm.
making that up, but it might have been someone else entirely. Anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. Script fonts, I'm a big fan of script fonts, I like them, I think they're fun designs. They are very hard for people to read,
Yes.
and especially the age range of people that we're generally targeting, a lot of times those are ones and especially on Pinterest, if you think about, if
Mhm.
you've ever searched Pinterest, you have to make those pins really super easy to read so that
Mhm.
people who are just looking at that one little kind of thumbnail essentially can read what you have on there. It's important.
Mhm. Yeah, especially because I think it's like 70% of people on Pinterest are using like the Pinterest app on their phones.
Mobile,
So it's
yeah,
even smaller. So like whatever you're designing on your desktop, you have to make sure also stands out and is super easy to read on your phone.
yeah. Canva, I am positive has a Pinterest setting. Like if you
Oh
do it
yeah. Mhm.
yeah, so you
Mhm.
can go to Canva, which I'm gonna say this for the millionth time. If you do not have Pro, please go run and get it. It's the best
Mhm.
$13 I spend a month. I, frequently wonder why they don't charge me more money, but you can just go and click a new thing and just they give you a ton of different things, and you just type in Pinterest, and it will give
Mhm.
you the exact size that you need to be sized properly for Pinterest, and
Mhm.
then you can go into their templates or themes and just put, like, I don't know, kitchen organizing, whatever, or
Mhm.
kitchen and just get a beautiful graphic, and then, like you said, just put some text over it.
Mhm.
It's really, really easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Canva makes it really easy. And yeah, like you said, they already have templates that you can just like swap out your colors and fonts for. Mhm.
Yeah. So, if people are diving into Pinterest, do you recommend that they set up kind of a business page and have some things that they follow? Like, So on Pinterest, you can follow people. And so
Mhm.
if someone wants to follow you, like if they find one of your pins and then want to follow you, if someone's really into Pinterest, like they're going to want to see like a
Mhm.
page that's built out, right? Is that fair?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So followers are helpful because when someone follows you, or even if they like interact with a lot of your pins, Pinterest is more likely to show your content like in their home feed. So just when they open Pinterest, they're not searching anything; they're just scrolling, which people do. I do that.
Yeah, I do too.
um, yeah. So it is helpful to have followers. It is not. I'll say it's not necessary to like have a ton of followers in order to see a lot of traction and traffic from Pinterest. So it's not like Instagram where like you need to get 10,000 followers in order to like have your posting by 100 people. So it is helpful in that sense. But yeah, when people go to your profile, you don't want to have like boards that are all over the place. Or I see this a lot where someone like has a board that has one pin on it,
Yeah.
or a board that hasn't been updated in 5 years, something like that. So making sure that your boards at least have a couple of pins on them, look a little bit built out. And for anyone who's like brand new to Pinterest, boards are basically just like categories of your content. So you can have different boards for kitchen organizing, kitchen cabinet organizing, pantry, or like you can get very specific.
Yeah.
And it's actually helpful to get a little bit specific because the more keywords that you're targeting within your board titles and board descriptions, again, the more information you're giving Pinterest to know, because people do search by boards, and then also whatever pins you have pinned to that board kind of reinforces to Pinterest like, oh, this is about kitchen cabinet organization, or this is about products for organization, something like that. So don't just have like kitchen, like get specific with like pantry shelf organization, something like that. But then also don't get so specific that you only have that one pin that is relevant to it.
Right.
Because again, you do want to make sure you have a few pins for all of your boards.
Pantry paperclip organization is
Yes.
a little too specific.
Yeah.
That so you said I actually wrote down while you were talking. I'm like, so Pro Organizer Studio has a pretty robust Pinterest that I don't do like remotely enough with. That is
Mhm.
a definite weak spot for me. So I was personally excited to talk to you today. But I just wrote down, I was like, oh, update my boards because I know my boards are for sure at least 4 or 5 years old. And I'm
Mhm.
sure that they have a bunch of old stuff. Like I could totally refresh
Mhm.
that and that would be a very enjoyable way to spend an evening. So
Yeah, yeah. And then also if you like maybe started with a personal account or currently have a personal account that you're transitioning to a business account or something, and you have like a bunch of boards that you don't want to delete but just aren't relevant, you can make them private boards or you can just archive them if you kind of want to like refer back to them if you want to, but you're not currently like pinning new content to it. So that way you don't like lose anything that you've pinned because yeah, I made my account a business account after having it a personal account. So I had a bunch of recipes. I'm like, I don't want to have to create a new account and like repin all of these. So I just make those private.
yeah, I love that. So if someone is just starting out, let's say has never done a pin before, do you recommend going back into kind of your content that you've put up and just reposting it all? Like if I have old
Mhm.
blog posts, like as long as they're still relevant, like post it on Pinterest, it's a brand new source for people to find your stuff, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's why one of the reasons why I love Pinterest is because if you have built up a bunch of content over the years, you're probably not like resharing it on Facebook or Instagram regularly, but you can reshare it on Pinstagram. Pinstagram. Wow.
Instagram. That would actually be a great combination.
Yeah, that would be.
Instagram. You just came up with something new and I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can get some funding for that.
You should go grab that URL while you
Yeah.
still have it.
Yeah, so if you have a ton of old content, you can like definitely repurpose that on Pinterest. Definitely check to make sure it's still like relevant and you're not pinning to a bunch of product links that lead to 404 error pages or something like that. But yeah, and then Pinterest is great because it can bring a lot of sustainable traffic to your website. So something that you pin today can like give you traffic for months to even years to come, rather than like Facebook and Instagram, you have a post and then it disappears after like
So
24
temporary.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is really great for kind of building up that sustainable evergreen traffic. I've seen pins. I had a client who had a pin from like 2009 that was still bringing traffic to her site. Um,
2009?
yeah. Hmm.
That's like 1,000 years ago.
I know.
That's
But
crazy.
it was like still relevant. People were still continually to save it. So then it was still being, shown
Yeah.
to new people on Pinterest. Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool.
So I can't promise something that you pin today is still going to be there in 10 years, but
You
it
never know.
is definitely longer than Facebook and Instagram.
That's crazy. Okay,
Mhm,
so on that front though, so since like YouTube has their shorts that they're being,
mhm,
so you were talking a little bit earlier about Pinterest kind of getting into
mhm,
video content. What would you define as like reels are obviously like a minute long.
mhm,
What is video content that is good for Pinterest if someone
mhm.
has video content?
Yeah, it's something you kinda need to play around with because I see very different things for different accounts. I will say typically under a minute. People also don't listen with the volume on, and then Pinterest automatically has them, like, muted anyway when you're kind of, like, scrolling through. So create something that is a little bit more, like, eye-catching that will, maybe doesn't need to have volume to show whatever you're showing or whatever you're doing. Yeah, I had an account, she was, like, creating a lot of videos for Instagram of just, like, her talking, and those didn't perform super well because people don't know who she is. They don't recognize her face because it's not like on Instagram where, all of your followers well, not even all of your followers, but mostly your followers are seeing your content, they recognize you, they have a connection with you. Whereas on Pinterest, this is kind of like a cold audience, so they're not gonna really know who you are unless they've been following you and engaging with your content already. So just keep that in mind that it's a cold audience. They likely can't hear what's going on in your video. So you do want to kind of like have it more visual and less dependent on sound. I also did a Pinterest audit for an account who was using a lot of like the trending sounds from Instagram on their like Instagram reels, and that was really helping their reels perform. But it did absolutely nothing on Pinterest for them. So yeah, just keep it more visual. Before and afters. You can also do like slideshows of photos that you've done or something like that. So it doesn't have to be like you have to create a brand new video all the time. You can repurpose your Instagram reels, do slideshows of photos showing before and afters of products or projects. So you kind of experiment to see what works well for you. But those would kind of be my recommendations.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that I am very much a proponent of you don't have to use social media to have a
Mhm,
successful organizing business. And there are so many, the algorithms of Instagram and Facebook change so constantly. And it's not to say that they don't on Pinterest, but is Pinterest a little bit more of the like, it probably has more of a long tail of like if you put something
mhm,
up there, it has much a greater chance of getting a reach versus Instagram and Facebook. You have such a short window of time that it
mhm.
might be relevant. Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, whatever you put on Pinterest today, it's not gonna, like, rank on Pinterest tomorrow. It is something that is kind of, like, more long term and builds up over time. But, yeah, whatever you're pinning today is should bring you traffic in the future, and it's not something where Facebook and Instagram, it's more like something that's more timely and then also stops being seen so quickly.
Yeah. I know, so I'm a big fan of the posting software called OneUp app. There are a bunch of different posting. Planoly does it as well. Do you recommend some of those things for posting to Pinterest as well, kind of the auto
Mhm,
post? Or do you recommend kind of going into Pinterest and doing it? I know there's Tailwind also.
mhm.
Like, do you have any favorite pieces of software that you recommend?
Yeah, so Tailwind is probably the one I use the most. Tailwind was, like, kind of the first
Yeah.
pin scheduler, and it was, like, created specifically for Pinterest. So that's kind of, like, what a lot of people use for Pinterest just because it was the first one that was around. Planoly, I've used, I don't love it for Pinterest specifically. Pinterest does have their own native scheduler, so I think you can schedule up to, like, 30 days on the Pinterest scheduler.
Okay.
So it's free if you're looking for just an easy free option. But yeah, the great thing about, I mean, any of these schedulers and with Pinterest is you can schedule out like a month or two at a time, and then you don't have to go back to Pinterest
Don't have to think
until it's
about
time.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to think about it. You don't have to like show up and dance around and do all these new videos every day or something like that. Like you can just schedule everything out and then not have to think about it for another month.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I mean, I would just think that this is the kind of thing, and I mean, I am going to personally spend some time on it too, because I'm actually, first of all, I think every once in a while you just need something new to concentrate on. I don't know. It's just like I'm used to doing all the old
It's
stuff.
just
I'm like,
it's a happy place.
it's fun. I really
Mhm.
like it. And like
Yeah.
every time, like when I like doing home improvement projects and I hate
Mhm.
cooking, but I would like to that makes sense, and I think especially because it's at least at the time we're recording this, it's the holidays, and I
Mhm.
tend to use Pinterest more around the holidays because 'cause I'm like, I'll get an idea of like, "Oh, I'm gonna make cinnamon rolls from scratch,"
Mhm.
whatever. Like, Pinterest, like you said, it's fun. Like, it's
Mhm.
not a platform, I think like, you can experiment with it what's the worst thing that'll happen, right? Like just
Mhm.
experiment with it, play around, figure out how to post, and then you might have one of those things that sticks around for 10 years or whatever, which is
Mhm.
crazy and cool.
Yeah, and kind of just made me think of it talking about, like, with seasonal content. But yeah, it's Pinterest is really great for seasonal content. People start searching for Christmas stuff in, like, August, I think, on
Yeah,
Pinterest. So you do need if you do have seasonal things, which I'm sure, like, January and then also, like, spring cleaning are huge topics for organizing.
sure.
Make sure you get that content up on Pinterest at least like 2 months before the searches are really gonna start happening. So that way it gives it time for Pinterest to start ranking that pin, and when people are ready to search for it, then your pin is already ranking higher than if you just, like, post something for this is Thanksgiving week that we're recording this. So if you're posting on, I don't know, organizing your Thanksgiving spices or something like that today, it's not gonna have enough time to be ranking before people are searching for it the day before Thanksgiving.
It'll rank for next year, but not for this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a really good
Mhm,
point about, like, doing it early because, it's sort of like I remember one time, this is 1,000 years ago at one of my old jobs, somehow I found out that, like, Hershey's starts making Christmas candy in, like, February, and for some reason,
mhm.
that, like, weirded me out, I don't know why. Um, but yeah, you have to think about it in
Mhm.
advance because if you're thinking about it around the same time, it's already too late for these things
Yeah.
to actually, like, as I tell people a lot, the tentacles of the internet take some time. Like,
Mhm.
not a magical instantaneous thing, which is very frustrating to a lot of people.
Yeah.
You have to let the machine do its work, and
Mhm.
you have to give it that time. So, yeah, having a schedule in advance, which is, can be challenging, but there's tons of seasonal content. So you've got
Mhm.
holidays, tons of great organizing content about the holidays, and especially also
Mhm.
Halloween is a huge decorating holiday now.
Mm,
So in
mhm.
terms of organizing, so you can start thinking about Halloween, you can think about a schedule of, like, back to school,
Yeah, back to school. Mhm.
Halloween, Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
Christmas, New Year's resolutions, spring cleaning.
Mhm.
Like, you can get a really nice schedule of organizing content built up and ready to go a couple months in
Yeah.
advance.
Mhm. And Pinterest has a tool called Pinterest Trends. It's just trends.pinterest.com, and it's kind of like their keyword research tool. I will say they don't have, like, the most information yet. It's still fairly new, so, like, the more specific topics you may be searching on there, they might not have information. But if you do wanna, like, just search, like, holiday decor organizing or something like that, you can see when the searches start to pick up or when they, quote, "trend." So that way you know, like, when 2 months before then is when you need to start having that content on Pinterest.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about so obviously Pinterest is a worldwide search engine.
Mhm,
And so when we think about organizers who want to do, let's say your primary tool is in-home organizing in your local community, can you talk
mhm,
about why this is still, even as a global tool, like why it is good for
mhm.
SEO for local in-home services?
Yeah, so specifically for SEO, the more quality traffic you get back to your site, the more it's going to help your rankings because this is something that Google can see how many people are getting to your site, how long they're staying on your site, how many different pages or posts that they're going to. So that is going to help your rankings over time. And then if you are trying to like really reach that local audience, it's harder to do that on Pinterest specifically. Like people aren't going to Pinterest to search for like Philadelphia organizer, but you can use your blog posts to kind of help lead those more local people to you. So if you live in Florida, don't write about like how to organize your like winter snowplow or like or your winter boots or something like that. Like talk about how to organize your beach towels. Something that's like a lot more specific to your region to help get those local searches back to your website, and you're not gonna be reaching as many people who live in, like, Canada or something.
Right. SEO, basically anything that helps your SEO is going to help random strangers on the
Mhm.
internet find you in your local area. And
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
SEO has so many different factors. And I think that we've gotten a little bit like what I'm seeing now is I think a lot of organizers are like, well, I've done kind of the basics, but you need to keep doing more stuff. Like unfortunately, there is more and
Mhm.
more competition and there's more complexity, and so anything you can do to increase your SEO is going to help. All of these things work
Mhm.
together to help you rise to the top of those rankings.
Yeah. And even just going back to the importance of blogging, like the more often that you're putting content on your website, the more often Google's going to come back to your website and crawl it. So the more often Google's going to be seeing your website and the more keywords that you have, the opportunities to rank for. So there are lots of SEO benefits for blogging and then also getting that Pinterest traffic.
Yeah. Okay, so just really quickly. So we have, let's say you write a blog post. Please write a blog, please. Okay, let's say you write a blog post and you're going to also put it on Pinterest.
Mhm.
If you could just wave your magic wand and everybody loved blogging and nobody got annoyed when you said please blog and no one said I don't know how to write, no one gave you all these excuses.
Mhm.
How many times a month would you suggest blogging for a professional organizer in a perfect world?
Yeah, honestly, I would say even in a perfect world, like twice a month, like you
Okay.
don't need to go crazy and write every day. Definitely focusing on quality over quantity and like writing at least 800 words per blog post. And yeah, I think twice a month is
Okay.
pretty good and I think manageable for most people. Even just once a month. If you are able to do more than that, that's great. But I know if I tell you to do once a week, then
Yeah,
you're going to either never ever do it or do it for a month and then never touch it ever again.
correct. Here's the advice I have been giving people, and by the way, I follow my own advice on this not as frequently as I should. I have said, okay, let's say it's once a month. You said you wanna just meet the bare minimum that Julie and I are both asking you to do, which is 1 time a month.
Mhm,
Go somewhere for a day, like coffee shop. If you can take yourself out of town and get a hotel room, even better, or in town and get a hotel room, I don't care. But just to spend 1 day writing all those blog posts.
mhm,
You can do it. You really, really can. And
mhm,
just get them all set up and all done, and then you don't have to think about it again. Or even if you did
yeah,
half of a year, even if you did 6
mhm,
months at a time, let's say you did 2 a month, 6 at a time, 6 months at a time, just do it all
mhm.
in one fell swoop if you can, make them really good quality, and then you don't have to worry about it again.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely getting out of the house, like, to a coffee shop or something is really helpful, for, like, writing. Because yeah, just getting out of your environment is helpful. I always had to do that when I was studying in grad school, and, like,
Yeah.
for something I really need to focus on, I need to, like, leave the house.
Totally. I don't know if this is just like I think it's probably person by person. I have to have a change of scenery if I'm, like, really
Mhm.
going deep on something.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like, sometimes I even
Mhm.
just move around my house, sometimes that's enough to do it. Sometimes it's, like, physically, I have to get in the car and go someplace.
Mhm.
Here's my new hot tip that no one asked for, public libraries.
I
I
was just thinking about libraries. Yeah, they're great.
the libraries around me, and I know that it's probably different, but based on where you live, I have some beautiful libraries near me, and guess what they are?
Mhm.
They're quiet. They're really
Mhm.
nice. They have lots of amenities. A lot of libraries now have actual, like, quiet rooms, like study rooms that you can rent out, so it's
Mhm.
perfectly silent, as opposed to, like, currently I have a loud dog, like, snoring underneath, whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's my hot tip for you. Just get out of the house,
Mhm.
go to the library.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So, okay, rank for me. This is like putting you on the hot seat. Rank for me if you again, in your perfect world, you have people that are working on their SEO, where would Pinterest rank for you in terms of like I mean websites first probably. Where would
Mhm.
Pinterest rank for you? Would it be second over
Yeah.
like Instagram, Facebook, other things?
Yeah, if you are focusing on creating blogs, I would rank Pinterest second. If that's something that you're still kind of like, this is month number 1 of writing 1 blog post a month, I'd probably, like, get a couple of blog posts under my belt, start creating pins for them, and in the meantime, like, yeah, focusing on Instagram and Facebook. But if you do have 10 years of blog posts that you can put on Pinterest, I would jump on there today.
Okay. I love that. Even if you had I feel like even if you had 10 blog posts total from your whole like business,
Mhm.
you could go put 10 pins up there,
Oh,
probably
yeah.
find some other content. There is so much content that you have that you probably just can repurpose. There are
Mhm.
go mess around with it, go put some stuff up, see what happens. Like just get the
Yeah.
practice and get out there and start doing it.
And you can always create more than one pin per blog post. So if you do want to create like have a system where you create one graphic for a blog post and then have like maybe a graphic showing a before and after that you feature in the blog post and then also just like pin photos of your work, are related to the blog
Dang.
post, you can knock out like 50 pins very quickly.
You can take one piece of content and just do
Mhm.
a ton of different things with them.
Yeah.
Okay, that is genius.
So
It
it's
is
not
helpful. You don't wanna have to worry about doing it yourself. I do Pinterest management, so that's where I take care of, like, literally everything with Pinterest. So, setting up your profile, cleaning it up if you've had a profile for a long time, cleaning up those boards, creating new boards, doing keyword research for your content, creating those pin graphics, and then getting everything scheduled out, writing the pin titles, pin descriptions, so, like, you literally don't have to touch Pinterest.
not have to
Um
do a single thing.
Yes. So if you don't wanna do Pinterest, but you know it can really help your business, then that's what I'd recommend. I do also have a service that's kind of like a hybrid DIY done for you. So if you want to do Pinterest yourself, but just like kind of getting started seems overwhelming.
Is
Mhm,
this like a part of your job that you is really fun? Like, just when I think about your
mhm.
job, like, is this a part where you're like, "Hey, this is really a fun part of what I do?"
Mhm. Yeah, I really love Pinterest because it is kind of that little bit of like analytical, doing keyword research, finding keywords
Yeah.
part, but then it's also like creative with like creating the pin designs and kind of experimenting with different things like that. So I do find Pinterest really fun. I do also find SEO fun. I know a lot of people don't, but
I think that's, you know, it's fascinating. I mean, like,
yeah.
I don't know nearly as much about it as you do, obviously. I love it because it's a little bit like it's strategic and it's a little bit of a
Mhm.
game and it's a little bit of
Yes.
like you have to play around with it and experiment a
Mhm.
little bit, and, the rules change all the time, and it's just
Mhm.
it's never ending amounts of
Yeah.
fun. So,
Mhm. I do kinda, like, see it as a game because
yeah.
even things just like writing meta descriptions, I'm like, "Okay, how can I, like, fit everything that I wanna say within 160 characters?" And, like,
Yeah.
playing around with all these different wordings to try to find, like, the perfect one, and yeah, I think it's fun.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think that's sort of like one of those things that, like I could like if you told me I had to be an accountant, I'd be like, no, please, like
Mhm.
literally anything. No, thank you. But
Mhm.
I think that's an example of everybody, all of us, like we're in the career we need to be in because we find
Mhm.
certain things fun that other people would find 0% fun. Like I have a lot of clients who are like, I would
Mhm.
never want to be an organizer. I don't understand how you see this. I don't understand how you
Mhm.
see a path through this. I don't, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, it's just like Tetris." I think it's great. So, I
Mhm.
love that you love SEO because so many people are like, "I think about it." So,
Yeah. Mhm.
we're all in the right spaces for us, which I love. So,
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
where can people find you on
Mhm.
the internet?
Yeah, so you can find me at juliareneeconsulting.com. My Instagram is also at Julia Renee Consulting. My email is julia@juliareneeconsulting.com. So everything is the same across the board.
Easy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and I said this the last time you were on, but I mean it. Please follow you. You are a great Instagram follower
Ah, thanks.
because, or a great Instagram follow, I should say, because you have such great content. And so, really, like if you're just kind of
Mhm.
getting your feet wet, if you're newer to the industry, or even if you're established, I love your Instagram because it really
Ah,
has
thanks.
legs.
Mhm.
So if you are kind of looking for some of those tips and tricks, but I also recommend getting on board, figuring out if this is something that you just can't figure out on your own, that there's a reason that experts like Julia exist to do it for you and to do it well and to get you up and going versus being a year down the road and going, oh, I should probably look at that Pinterest thing. So
Yeah.
love it. All right. Is there anything that I did not cover that you wanted to? Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Yeah, just yeah, if you get started on Pinterest today and you should be seeing traffic a year from now rather than if you wait a year and you're
Yeah.
not gonna see anything from Pinterest yet. Mhm.
That is a great point. Yeah, getting started today is a great
Mhm.
thing to do. So, I'm going to take my own advice and I'm going to get started on a couple today. I will be the guinea pig. I will do it
Mhm.
first and then everyone else can follow along. So, we will link all of Julia's information in our show notes, including a couple of those blog posts
Mhm.
that she talked about. So, just hit down. If you've never hit show notes, by the way, there's a ton of information in show notes. It's sort of like a description on Pinterest or YouTube or any of these other things.
Mhm.
There's a ton of stuff in the show notes that tells you exactly how to get in touch with all of our guests. So you can just do a quick little click and you will be right over to Julia to help you with Pinterest. So, well, thanks for coming again today. And thank you for your dedication to professional organizers and making sure that people can find
Yeah.
them on the internet.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me again.
Yeah, we appreciate it.